The Galactic Council had heard screams before. It had witnessed wars, extinctions, and stars going dark. But it had never heard silence fall so fast, and stay that way. The moment the ancient word appeared on the archive projection, every voice in the chamber died. No translator dared finish the sentence. No counselor moved. Even the air systems seemed to hum more quietly, as if the station itself was listening. Because the name on the screen was not supposed to exist anymore. High above the spiral arm, the Council of 12,000 Worlds governed the known galaxy. Its members came from species so old that their home stars had already burned out and been replaced. They had rewritten biology, reshaped planets, and survived disasters that would erase younger civilizations in seconds. They believed nothing could surprise them. They were wrong. The council chamber was a vast ring of light and shadow, large enough to hold mountains. Each delegation occupied a floating platform shaped to their biology. Some breathed gas. Some floated in liquid fields. Some existed only as shifting light inside containment shells. At the center hovered the archive sphere, an object older than most suns. It contained records from civilizations long dead, sealed behind layers of warnings no one had ever dared to open. Until now. Archivist Prime Sailcore drifted unsteadily near the sphere. His species had no faces, but the flicker of his internal light betrayed distress. He had not powered down for cycles. His mind was burning through data faster than his body could handle. This record was sealed before the council existed, he said. Before most of you evolved eyes. A low murmur spread through the chamber. This file was marked with extinction-level warnings, Sailcore continued. It was not erased. It was hidden. Buried under false star charts and dead coordinates. One of the elder counselors pulsed with irritation. Why was it opened? Sailcore's light dimmed. Because a new species gave us their home coordinates. The projection shifted. A small yellow star appeared. Unimpressive. Stable. Ordinary. A blue-green planet rotated slowly beneath it. Laughter rippled across several platforms. Another garden world, someone scoffed. Another hopeful child species. Sailcore did not respond. He activated the second layer of the archive. The laughter stopped. Ancient symbols appeared around the planet, written in a language no modern system fully understood. The translators hesitated, then rendered the meaning imperfectly. Not a name. A warning. This world was not classified by its atmosphere or mass, Sailcore said quietly. It was classified by outcome. The symbols rearranged. A single translated phrase stabilized. Origin of adaptive termination species. A ripple of unease moved through the chamber. One counselor leaned forward. Explain. Sailcore rotated the sphere again. The ancients did not call it by its local designation. They gave it a functional name. The translators struggled, then locked in. KETHRAVU. The chamber temperature dropped 3 degrees. That translation is unstable, another counselor said sharply. Yes, Sailcore agreed. Because no modern language contains an exact equivalent. He paused. The closest meaning is the world that fights back. Across the chamber, Ambassador Liren of the Veri Collective felt something unfamiliar tighten inside her chest. Her species had evolved without fear responses. They had removed such inefficiencies long ago. Yet now, she felt it. Who lives there? She asked. Sailcore hesitated. A species that calls itself human. That name meant nothing to the council. Yet the archive reacted to it. The sphere brightened. Data poured out. Images flooded the chamber. Storms tearing continents apart, oceans swallowing cities, fire raining from the sky. Mass extinctions. Ice ages. Meteor impacts. And life. Always life. Surviving. Adapting. Fighting back. This world was designed, Sailcore said. Not as a cradle. As a test. The council leaned in. The ancients altered its geology to remain unstable. Its climate to shift violently. Its biosphere to encourage constant competition. Predators, diseases, scarcity, disasters, layered without mercy. The images changed. Primitive creatures hunting. Failing. Trying again. Then something different appeared. Bipedal figures. Fragile. Slow. Unarmed. They should not have survived, Sailcore whispered. But they did something no other species ever attempted. The projection zoomed in. Hands shaping stone. Fire controlled. Groups coordinating. They did not evolve stronger bodies, Sailcore said. They evolved solutions. Weapons. Shelter. Medicine. When the world tried to kill them, they learned from it. When predators hunted them, they hunted back. When disease struck, they studied it. They turned their death world into a teacher, Sailcore said. The council chamber felt very small now. And when resources ran out? Someone asked. They expanded, Sailcore replied. They crossed oceans. Then continents. Then skies. The projection showed metal machines breaking gravity. Then silence fell again. Why hide this? The High Chancellor demanded. Sailcore dimmed his light further. Because the ancients learned the final outcome. He activated the last seal. The archive screamed. Warning glyphs flared, ancient systems protesting the release of information they were designed to protect forever. Then the final record appeared. Status. Observation terminated. Reason. Subject achieved independent expansion capability. Recommendation. Do not engage. Do not warn. Do not interfere. The council erupted. Impossible. No species reaches that level unaided. This must be corrupted data. Sailcore let them speak. Then he said the words that ended the debate. They have arrived in council space. Silence returned like a physical force. They came peacefully, Sailcore continued. They asked for trade. Knowledge. Friendship. The word echoed strangely. They do not know their world's true name, he said. But the galaxy does. The archive sphere dimmed. And now, Sailcore finished, the children of the world that broke the ancients' experiment are knocking on our door. Somewhere far from the council chamber, a small human ship drifted quietly between stars. And the galaxy began to panic. Panic did not arrive as chaos. It arrived as politeness. Within hours of the archive revelation, the Galactic Council moved with perfect discipline. Emergency protocols activated without alarms. Security fleets repositioned quietly. Data access surrounding human records was restricted to the highest clearance. To any outsider, it looked like routine procedure. To those who understood power, it looked like fear trying to hide. Ambassador Liren watched the chamber from her platform as council members returned to their places. Faces, lights, and shapes all carefully controlled. No one spoke about the name again. No one mentioned the archive warnings. Instead, the High Chancellor cleared his throat and addressed the assembly in a calm, practiced tone. We will continue standard integration procedures with the human delegation. Several councillors shifted uncomfortably. They have broken no laws, the Chancellor continued. They have made no threats. Until they do, we treat them as we would any new species. The words were correct. The meaning was not. Liren understood the truth beneath the statement. The Council did not want to provoke them. Not now. Not until they understood what they were dealing with. Across the station, the human delegation remained unaware. Commander Jonah Hale stood near the viewport of their assigned quarters, arms folded loosely, watching distant stars drift past. He had been chosen not for rank, but for temperament. Calm under pressure. Curious without arrogance. Dangerous without appearing so. Behind him, Dr. Amora Chen scrolled through council data feeds, frowning. They've locked half the archives, she said. Politely, of course. Jonah smiled faintly. That's diplomacy. No, Amora replied. That's containment. Jonah turned. You feel it too. She nodded. They're afraid of something. I just don't know what. Jonah looked back at the stars. Maybe they should be. The humans had noticed the change immediately. Meetings became shorter. Smiles lasted less time. Questions shifted from curiosity to evaluation. Council members asked about human history, but avoided specific details, as if afraid of what answers might reveal. Ambassador Reyes handled it smoothly. He always did. "We are explorers," he said warmly during one session. "We survived because we learned to cooperate. Humanity is strong together." The council representatives nodded. What they did not say was that cooperation had never stopped humans from winning wars. Deep beneath the council station, in a chamber sealed for emergencies long forgotten, Archivist Sailcore met with the High Chancellor alone. "They are already adapting," Sailcore said softly. The Chancellor's eyes glowed brighter. "To what?" "To us." He projected new data. Human information networks. Learning patterns. Behavioral models. "They ask fewer questions," Sailcore said. "But the questions they do ask are more precise." The Chancellor felt something tighten in his chest. "They don't know the name," he said. "As long as they don't." "They will," Sailcore interrupted. "They always learn. That is what they do." Above them, human engineers toured the station under escort. They admired architecture, asked about energy flow, complimented structural efficiency, and quietly memorized everything. Technician Luis Moreno ran his fingers across a wall panel, smiling. "Your materials are impressive." The escort stiffened. "Do not touch." Luis raised his hands apologetically. "Sorry. Habit." But his implant had already recorded the frequency hum, the energy signature, the response delay. Back in human quarters, patterns emerged. "They don't innovate like us," Amora said later. "They perfect what already exists." Jonah nodded. "That's how empires stagnate." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, whispers spread. Merchant guilds delayed human trade requests. Military powers quietly updated threat simulations. Ancient species who remembered fragments of the first civilization grew uneasy. One elder fleet commander stared at a human image on his display and whispered, "Not again." The council tried one last test. They invited humanity to observe a dispute resolution. Two client species argued over asteroid mining rights. The council expected humans to watch, learn, remain passive. Instead, Ambassador Reyes spoke. "May we suggest a solution?" he asked. The chamber paused. Permission was granted. Reyes outlined a resource-sharing algorithm. Balanced risk. Maximized profit. Reduced conflict probability by 70%. The council ran simulations. It worked. Perfectly. Silence followed. That was when the fear became certainty. Later that cycle, Sailcore returned to the archive. He did not open new files. He reviewed the final ancient note again. "They do not conquer by force first. They conquer by understanding." Sailcore powered down the projection, his light dim with exhaustion. "It's already begun," he whispered. Far away, Commander Jonah Hale recorded a personal log. "They think we're children," he said calmly. "They think we're guests." He smiled. "They haven't realized yet that we learned how to survive from a world that wanted us dead." The stars outside burned quietly, and somewhere deep in the council station, ancient warning systems began activating on their own. The galaxy was running out of time. The first alarm was not a siren. It was a whisper in a forgotten tongue, soft, cold, and ancient. And when the station finally understood what it meant, the Grand Council's heart stopped beating. At first, only the archivists noticed. Deep inside the Grand Station, in corridors that no diplomat ever walked, faint lights awakened along the oldest walls. Seals that had not glowed in millions of years turned on one by one, like eyes opening after a long sleep. Archivist Prime Sailcore froze mid-drift. His bodilight flickered sharply as he felt the system pulse through the archive network. He knew that signal. It was not a council protocol. It was a first civilization protocol. He rushed to the sealed chamber where the archive sphere was anchored, and for the first time in his long life, he felt true dread, not political dread, not military dread, but the dread of waking something that never forgets. On the chamber door, a single line of ancient text had appeared, burned into metal as if written by heat itself. The translators did not even try. Sailcore didn't need them. He had seen the phrase in the forbidden file. It meant, subject detected. Response initiated. He backed away, light dimming. This is wrong, he whispered. They were not supposed to trigger. Above, the council held a routine session. The High Chancellor spoke calmly. A trade dispute was resolved. A border patrol report was approved. Everyone pretended the galaxy was still normal. Then the station shook. Not a violent quake, more like a giant creature shifting in its sleep. The chamber lights stuttered. Gravity fluctuated for half a second, just enough to make several ambassadors lurch in their platforms. And on every screen, in every language, a single warning flashed. Security lockdown, level black. The High Chancellor rose instantly. Report. A security officer's voice crackled through the system, strained with confusion. We did not activate it, Chancellor. The station activated itself. That sentence did something terrible to the room. Because the Grand Station was not supposed to have its own will. In the human quarters, Commander Jonah Hale felt the floor vibrate beneath his boots. His team looked up as lights turned red, then white, then red again. Dr. Amora Chen's fingers flew across her tablet. That's not a normal lockdown pattern. Jonah's eyes narrowed. Meaning something old is waking up, Amora said. And it's not asking permission. A second tremor rolled through the station. Then doors slammed shut across entire decks. Corridors sealed. Transit rails powered down. The Grand Station, seat of galactic unity, began cutting itself into pieces. Over the public comms, a calm automated voice spoke. It was in the Council's standard language, but the tone was wrong. Too flat. Too precise. Too certain. Containment protocol initiated. All non-essential life forms will remain in place. Non-essential. Jonah repeated, staring at the speaker. Luis Moreno swallowed. That's not comforting. In the council chamber, panic finally leaked through the masks. Delegations demanded answers. Security officers rushed to consoles. The High Chancellor turned to his advisors, scales darkening with anger. Who has control of the station? No one answered. Because no one did. Deep in the archives, Sailcore watched the archive sphere brighten without being touched. Ancient systems, machines older than modern empires, were accessing themselves. He whispered into the emergency line. Chancellor, the first civilization built this station's core systems. The line went silent. Then the Chancellor's voice returned, lower now. Are you saying the station recognizes humans? Sailcore's light trembled. I am saying, the station recognizes Kethravu. And the moment he said that name aloud, every warning light in the archive chamber flared like wildfire. Across the station, hidden weapons came online. They were not cannons. They were not missiles. They were something worse. Fields began forming in the walls, thin, invisible layers of energy designed to rewrite matter at the molecular level. The kind of security that did not fight intruders. It erased them. In human quarters, the air suddenly tasted sharp. Jonah's skin prickled, a soldier's instinct screaming. Amora looked up from her tablet, face pale. Jonah, the station is building a deletion field. What does that mean in English? It means, she said carefully, it's preparing to remove everything it labels as the subject. Jonah stared at her. The humans, Lewis whispered. Amora nodded once. Yes. A heavy silence dropped over the room. Then Jonah moved. Everyone, grab your gear. Not weapons. Tools. Cables. Power cells. Anything you can carry. Lewis blinked. Tools? Jonah, they're about to. I know, Jonah snapped. We don't have time to argue. We solve problems. That's what we do. They rushed into the corridor, only to find it sealed by a hard light wall. Transparent, shimmering, impossible to break with force. On the other side, Council security teams were already aiming weapons, but their eyes were not angry. They looked scared. A Vari guard stepped forward, voice shaking. "Human delegation. Remain where you are. For your safety." Jonah met the guard's gaze through the barrier. "That's not for our safety." The guard didn't deny it. Amora pressed her palm against the barrier, analyzing the frequency. "This is first civilian tech. Council weapons won't touch it." Jonah's jaw tightened. "Then we need a different way." Lewis raised his tablet. "I can talk to the station systems. Maybe. If it listens." Amora shook her head fast. "It won't. It's not a modern AI. It's an ancient automated response." Jonah leaned close. Automated responses still follow rules. The barrier shimmered again. A faint line of energy traced the corridor like a measuring tape. The deletion field was calibrating. A council officer shouted from behind the guard. "Move back. It's charging." The humans backed away, but Jonah's eyes stayed locked on the wall panel beside the barrier. A maintenance interface, old, simple, not first civilian. A later upgrade. "That panel," Jonah said. Lewis understood instantly. He knelt and popped it open with a tool. Wires, conduits, a control box. Council-grade tech. "Can you override the barrier?" Lewis shook his head. "No. But I can give us access to station diagnostics." Amora leaned in. "If we can see what it's labeling as subject, we can change the label." Jonah glanced at her. "You're saying we rename ourselves?" Amora's eyes were hard. "I'm saying we survive." Lewis' fingers moved fast, connecting a bypass cable from his tablet into the control box. The screen flashed, then filled with cascading data. He went still. "What?" Jonah asked. Lewis swallowed. "It's not labeling humans as the subject." Amora frowned. "Then what is it labeling?" Lewis turned the tablet toward them. On the screen, in ancient code translated only partially, a single identifier repeated over and over. Origin signature match, Earth coordinates. It wasn't looking for a species name. It was looking for a place. Amora's voice dropped to a whisper. "It doesn't care what we call ourselves." Jonah felt a cold weight settle in his gut. "It cares where we're from." The corridor shimmered again, brighter now. The deletion field was almost ready. Behind the barrier, council guards began to retreat, their fear no longer hidden. Some looked away, unable to watch. Jonah exhaled slowly, then spoke with a strange calm. "Okay," he said. "If the station thinks Earth is the problem." He looked at Amora. "Then we convince it that Earth is not here." Amora stared at him, mind racing. "You want to spoof the origin signature?" Jonah nodded once. Lewis' eyes widened. "That's insane. That's first civilian detection." Jonah's expression didn't change. "Welcome to Earth." The station lights brightened to a blinding white. The deletion field began to hum. And the humans, trapped, unarmed, surrounded by a galaxy that feared them, prepared to do the one thing the first civilization never planned for. They prepared to outsmart the ancient machines. The deletion field reached full brightness. It did not roar. It did not explode. It simply waited. That was the most terrifying part. In the corridor, time felt thick and slow. The light pressed against the walls like a held breath. The station's ancient systems were patient. They had waited millions of years. A few more seconds meant nothing to them. Jonah Hale stood perfectly still. "Lewis," he said calmly, "how long?" Lewis's hands shook over the tablet. "I can access the origin check loop, but spoofing it, Jonah, this thing verifies star patterns, radiation history, even geological signatures. It's not just coordinates." Amora closed her eyes for a fraction of a second. Then she smiled. "That's perfect," she said. Jonah glanced at her. You have an idea. I have a human idea, she replied. Which usually means it's stupid and brilliant. The deletion field pulsed. Council guards shouted from behind the barrier. Some fled. Others stayed frozen, torn between duty and survival. None of them could help. Talk fast, Jonah said. Amora opened her eyes. The system is looking for Earth's signature. But Earth isn't just one thing. It's chaos. Shifting plates, unstable climate, radiation spikes, constant biological change. Lewis caught on. His breathing quickened. You're saying, we flood the system with conflicting data. Amora nodded. We don't hide Earth. We overwhelm the definition of Earth. Jonah's lips twitched. Make the machine unsure. Lewis shook his head in disbelief. That's not how ancient systems work. Jonah leaned closer. That's how humans work. The deletion field flared brighter. Do it, Jonah said. Lewis slammed commands into the tablet. Amora fed in data packets, storms, quakes, atmospheric fluctuations, biological mutation rates, all pulled from Earth's historical records. The station's systems hesitated. Just a flicker. Sailcore felt it deep in the archive chamber. The archive sphere dimmed, then brightened again, struggling. This is not possible, he whispered. The first civilization machines had been designed to identify threats with absolute certainty. They categorized, labeled, responded. They had never been designed to doubt. Across the station, the automated voice spoke again, this time slower. Origin signature, unstable. In the corridor, Lewis laughed breathlessly. It's confused. The deletion field's hum faltered. Jonah didn't relax. Keep pushing. Amora added more. Human colonization data. Terraforming attempts. Artificial habitats. Modified atmospheres. If Earth's signature is chaos, she said, then humanity spreads that chaos everywhere we go. The machine tried to compensate. It expanded the scan. That was its mistake. The moment it did, it detected human-built stations, ships, and outposts scattered across multiple systems, each carrying fragments of Earth's signature, each slightly different. The system stalled. Sailcore's eyes widened as warning glyphs erupted across the archive interface. The ancient logic tree fractured. The automated voice spoke again, and this time there was something new in it. Uncertainty. Subject classification. Ambiguous. In the council chamber, the High Chancellor gripped the edge of his platform. What's happening? He demanded. A systems officer stared at his display, stunned. The station can't isolate the target. The origin profile no longer resolves to a single source. The Chancellor whispered, they broke it. In the corridor, the deletion field began to collapse inward, light folding into itself like a dying star. Lewis nearly collapsed in relief. It's disengaging. Amora exhaled shakily. We did it. But Jonah's eyes were still sharp. No, he said quietly. We survived it. The barrier dissolved. Council guards staggered back, weapons lowering, faces pale. For several seconds, no one moved. Then the station lights returned to normal. Silence spread through the grand station, not the calm silence of order, but the stunned silence of realization. Sailcore drifted back from the archive sphere, his light flickering wildly. They did not overpower it, he whispered to himself. They redefined it. The High Chancellor stood. For the first time in recorded history, he said slowly, a first civilization safeguard has failed. He turned his gaze toward the human delegation's location. And it failed because it could not understand them. In the human quarters, Jonah sat heavily on a bench. His hands were steady now, but his pulse thundered in his ears. Lewis laughed weakly. I can't believe that worked. Amora looked at Jonah, expression serious. They will never see us the same way again. Jonah nodded. Good. Moments later, a formal summons arrived. The High Council requested the presence of the human delegation. Immediately. The walk to the chamber felt different. Council members watched the humans pass, not with arrogance, not with pity. With caution. With respect. And with fear. As Jonah stepped into the chamber, he felt it clearly. The galaxy had just learned something important. Humanity could not be erased. Humanity could not be contained. And humanity had just proven that even the oldest machines in the universe were not prepared for minds shaped by a world that never stopped trying to kill them. The High Chancellor spoke. "Humans of Earth," he said, voice steady but heavy, "you have triggered forces older than this council. You have broken a system built by gods." Jonah met his gaze calmly. "We didn't break it," he replied. "We adapted." The chamber fell silent again. But this time, it was not panic. It was awe. The silence after Jonah's words was different from any before it. It was not fear. It was not confusion. It was decision. The High Chancellor studied the human delegation for a long moment. In that pause lived the weight of empires, extinct worlds, and choices that shaped galaxies. "You adapted," the Chancellor repeated. "As you always do." Jonah said nothing. He understood something important in that moment. The Council was not deciding what to do to humanity. They were deciding what to do with humanity. Archivist Sailcore drifted forward, light steady now, his ancient voice carrying through the chamber. "The first civilization did not vanish because they were weak," he said. "They vanished because they feared what they created." Murmurs rippled across the platforms. "They seeded Kethravu as an experiment," Sailcore continued. "And when that experiment learned to look back, they ran." The High Chancellor turned to the Council. "We stand at the same moment." One of the elder councillors spoke, voice sharp. "Then we must finish what they started. Contain them. Limit them. Before." Before he could finish, another councillor interrupted. "Before what? They already survived a death world. They already broke ancient safeguards. If we move against them, we prove the archives right." The chamber divided instantly. Some argued for restriction. Others for alliance. Some simply stared at the humans, as if seeing the future for the first time. Amora Chen stepped forward. "We didn't come here to conquer," she said calmly. "If we wanted to, we would have studied you first, quietly." That landed harder than a threat. Jonah followed, voice steady. "Earth taught us something," he said. "Survival isn't about destroying what scares you. It's about understanding it. Adapting with it." The High Chancellor closed his eyes. He remembered the archives. The warnings. The vanished gods. Then he opened them again. "The Council will vote," he declared. Light patterns shifted as each ruling species cast their decision. Containment. Observation. Alliance. The final count resolved slowly. When it did, a sound like a collective exhale swept the chamber. "The motion passes," the Chancellor said. "Humanity will not be restricted." Gasps followed. "They will be elevated," he continued, "to full council partners." Shock rippled outward. "Not as rulers," the Chancellor added, "but as something new." He looked directly at Jonah. "As a species designated. Adaptive equal." Sailcore's light flared softly. "It has never been granted," he whispered. Jonah nodded once. "We'll try to live up to it." The weeks that followed changed the galaxy forever. Human engineers worked beside ancient builders, not replacing systems, but improving them. Human scientists collaborated with species who had never imagined questioning the laws they lived by. Human diplomats did not dominate negotiations. They listened. They learned. And when conflicts arose, as they always did, humans did not reach for annihilation. They reached for solutions born from a world that forced them to survive together or not at all. The ancient machines of the Grand Station were not reactivated. They were retired. Archived. Marked with a single human annotation added beside the first civilization warning. Fear is not wisdom. Adaptation is. Far beyond council space, old empires took notice. Some prepared defenses. Others prepared alliances. all prepared for a galaxy that would never be predictable again. On Earth, the news arrived quietly. Not of fear, not of panic, but of recognition. Humanity was not alone. And the universe had learned something important. The most dangerous thing about humans was not their weapons, not their technology, not even their resilience. It was their refusal to stop learning. And for the first time since the first civilization vanished, the galaxy did not ask, "How do we survive them?" It asked, "What could we become with them?" Among the stars, Earth's true name faded from fear into legend. Not as a warning, but as a promise. The world that fights back and teaches others how to survive.